I've been walking these streets for 25 years, pounding the pavements. I know what's going on in the back rooms. I know what's going on in the boardrooms. What's the Deal is the place where the purple people hang out. We're the only show that allows a Democrat, a Republican, and an independent to come down and talk it out. The #1 show on television that always focuses on crypto. We tell you what's the real deal, real people that know where the rubber meets the road. Not these talking heads that imagine their mommy and daddy's money. Should we all do the wave?
On the one hand, it's a barometer of where the country is, and on the other hand, it's about where the Congress is going to go.
Bitcoin falling.
I'm a Bitcoin believer.
All righty then, welcome back. So good to be back. Our first episode since the midterm elections. Good day and welcome to What's the Deal? It's good to be back with a brand new episode today. This is the follow-up to the supposed blue wave, blue ebb, maybe blue ripple. For Republicans, it's the morning after show. It's the after party, but there's no party for the Republicans this year. The ripple in the midterm elections for months has been told to us by the fake news, touted to us.
The growing Democratic advantage.
Can Democrats win the popular vote?
Combination of fear-mongering and, well, outright lying.
People like Donald Trump repeatedly sexually assault women.
The entire mainstream media, we are reflexively anti-Trump on all things.
They're promoting this big blue wave. Maybe there's going to be 60 seats. Worse than Obama, 70 seats. The Senate in 2020 has already started. That fight is on. We'll pick through the rubble of those midterm elections later on. We'll do what we always do right here on What's the Deal. We'll go inside the numbers, and we'll see with a little closer look. It wasn't a wave after all. It wasn't a tsunami. And despite the mainstream media rooting on the Democratic voters, get out and vote, young people, women, hurry, vote. Wave, to me, was nothing more than a ripple in the deep blue sea. Tonight, a bit of politics and then a bunch of crypto. Joining us from the left, Josh Kravitz, lawyer, advocate, Democratic district leader right here in Manhattan, the bluest county, in the bluest city, in the bluest state in the country. Josh, we can find you on Twitter at Josh K at Ravitz NYC. Thank you for coming into hostile territory on What's the Deal. And from the right, John Burnett. John is the CEO of the Empire Group. He's a former Republican candidate for New York City Controller. And then, of course, my friend on the end, my confidant, my executive producer, Frank Morano, here to break it all down. Guys, thanks for joining us tonight. I was watching this thing. We had Steve Bannon on the show. He said, maybe a great case they'll get 12 seats. And there was morning joke.
Tuesday was a massive blue wave, was it not?
Don Lemonhead saying we might get 65, worse than Obama. Don Lemon full of...
Winner of Columbia Journalism Review's Award for Worst Journalist of the Year.
And I'm a numbers guy. When I look inside the numbers, I hear a dozen from Bannon, I hear 60 from the mainstream. When you put it all together, 40 seats. It's the average. And the party in power usually loses about 30, 40 seats. Unlike Obama, who lost over 60 seats. Josh, what's your view on this wave, ripple?
Yeah, I think it's a wave. And,
It is a wave.
Yeah.
Should we all do the wave?
Yeah, we can do the wave. We can do the wave. Yeah, it's a wave. I mean, look, an election is two things. On the one hand, it's a barometer of where the country is, and on the other hand, it's about where the Congress is going to go. So as a barometer as to where the country is, 8.1% more people voted for Democrats than they did for Republicans. So that's the national mood. Can't deny that. Now, you want to talk about 40 seats? We can talk about 40 seats, but one house of Congress flipped, and now we have Democratic accountability.
I'm kind of a binary guy, so the numbers work better for me than percentages. I always say, let's do fun with numbers. Give me the number you want to get to,
Okay.
And then we'll figure out how we.
So I needed to get to 23.
I
needed to get to 23.
Johnny, the Democratic registration in America is overwhelmingly in favor of Democrats, right? And you have the mainstream media acting as the media wing, the media arm of the Democratic Party. To get 8% more votes, it's actually below the mean of what they should have got, right?
Absolutely. It's not a wave. It's not a ripple, right? My old man used to always say, don't look for credit where you haven't earned it, right?
Yeah.
So when you look at the historical standards, the Democrats were supposed to take back the House.
Yes.
Right? And they were supposed to, with all the Trump hysteria and craziness.
Worse than Obama.
Worse than Obama.
Exactly.
They didn't actually meet their own standards.
That's what I'm saying.
They underperformed. And when you look at the other side, in terms of the upper house, they lost seats.
I think a lot of people in the Trump election kind of just did, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore vote. Like, I don't love Trump. I'm not swallowing it good, but I'm going to digest it because I'll take anybody but Hillary. I think there was a piece of that in the Trump election.
But there are a lot of people on both sides, that purple area, so to speak, that love the economy, love their 401ks, love the stock market, love the business environment and the deregulation.
Frankie, you are a independent. You're the secretary of the New York State Reform Party.
I was a strong Trump supporter in that 2016 election.
But you're a purple person.
Absolutely.
You're socially liberal. You're fiscally responsible politically, not personally, obviously.
Exactly. I don't like labels, I just kind of look at each issue on its own merits and make a decision, shockingly, based on the merits of that individual issue. But I actually think all three of you guys are right to some extent. I think it was a blue wave, but it was a blue wave in the blue states. It was not at all a blue wave in the red states, and it was sort of a blue, you use the term ripple or droplet, in the purple states. So I think
Nicole said ebb, I said
ebb,
ripple,
droplet, whatever it
a
is.
whole bunch of different water analogies.
Sprinkle.
But I think the thing that's interesting, John, is that the bluer states are getting bluer, the redder states are getting redder. 20, 30 years ago, if you told someone you were a Republican or a Democrat, they would then have to ask you, are you a liberal or a conservative?
Yeah,
those days are over.
Josh, to Frankie's point, I understand what he's saying. They're solidifying the base, but there are places in the country like Utah, like Arizona, Mississippi. There are places in the country that are supposed to be stalwart red states. And our guys are getting, and girls and women are getting challenged in those states. Why is that happening?
I think it's different in different places. I think there are a lot of different factors. So Arizona is its own place. I don't think Trump coming to Arizona in the last week of the election did any good when people who live on the border understand that him vilifying people who are trying to cross the border and seek asylum are coming here to make a better life with the children.
People trying to come across the border, he's vilifying, or he's calling them what they are, invaders, right? There's a place.
Well, he's also calling them criminals. Right?
But they are criminals because when you come to the border, there's a place to show up. There's the door for asylum seekers. Go there. There's a big line. Okay, get online. That's how
Whoever
you come
doesn't
in
come
legally.
to the door.
Yeah, if you want to jump over the top of the fence, then you're an
illegal.
invader. Johnny, is Trump right in saying if you're coming through the border for asylum, you have to go to the asylum door?
Absolutely. Look, whoever doesn't come through the front door, if you come by any other means, you're actually trying to break in. And the troops were sent down there not to show force, but to reinforce, to have a backup plan with respect to supporting the border control. And we've seen reports, people throwing rocks, bottles, glass. If they're acting this way on the other side of the border before they even come in, how are they going to act after they're allowed in?
I'm right in the middle of reading Warren Buffett's book, his biography, and Warren Buffett says something that's so amazing for those of you at home, if you're in business, if you're with people socially. Warren Buffett says, people are on their best behavior on their way in. So if they're acting like that on their way in, they ain't gonna get better.
Well, so I think the thing you have to be careful with is the use of the term they, right? So whenever you're talking 8, 9, 10,000 people, there are going to be widely different personalities and behaviors within those thousands of people. But to me, the point that you raise is sort of a two-part question. Should we just say, all right, well, you're having a tough time, come right in?
Come on in.
I think if you do that, what that does is it creates what economists call a moral hazard, where if you welcome in these 8, 9, 10,000 people just because they're maybe economic refugees or even refugees of real violence, you send a message to the whole world
Come on down.
All
The
you
price
have
is right.
to do is be from a place where things are worse than they are in America, and we'll take you right in. The other thing is a political question, right? What is the political ramifications of this? And I think we have to turn to the person that got the most votes in the 2016 presidential election for the answer to that question. That's, of course, Hillary Clinton. She said to the folks in Europe, you know what? You better be careful with this migrant situation because it's getting a little out of control.
It's getting scary.
And so I think what we're seeing in Europe, that's a preview of what we're going to be seeing here in America 2, 4, 5, 6 years from now. Listen to Hillary Clinton. Get control of it now.
One of the things that I thought brought a lot of people together on Trump was Supreme Court justices. People voted for him just to get a justice. And the one thing we didn't really highlight is they were saying that we could lose both houses, the Republicans. We lost the House at a reasonable number. We actually picked up seats on the Republican side in the Senate, where the key thing is our Supreme Court. So Donald Trump's been talking about winning. We're going to keep winning, winning, winning. I say a lot on this show. We have one goal here. It's to make television great again. And we're going to keep making television so great that you're going to ask me, stop making this show so great. But Trump was saying winning, winning, winning. I think we're winning. That's what I think. Your final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about the Senate, it's hard for Democrats to win the Senate. It was a tough map for the Democrats to win the Senate this year, and it's always going to be tough when you have Wyoming with 400,000 people.
To be fair, there was some gerrymandering. There were more Republicans up for election this year. But we still won.
No, and
we bucked the historical trend.
That's true, but
it's always in the numbers.
A W is a W.
That's it. We got the W.
It's always going to be difficult.
It wasn't our fault they fumbled that punt with 1 second left in the game. We ran it for a touchdown. That's what happens.
Look, it's always going to be difficult for the Democrats to win when 40 million people in California have the same representation as 400,000 people in Wyoming. It's always going to be difficult. But at the end of the day, you're right. I'm not happy that now there are 53 Republican senators, and it makes it more likely that if another Supreme Court seat comes up, that it's going to be Trump's to have.
John, let me get your final thoughts on the Senate, because we didn't talk about that that much.
Look, Josh may not be happy, but you're still winning, whether you realize it or not. And that's the key. The economy's doing well. The employment levels are high, best they've ever been for several demographics. People are happy with this economy. That's right. And they're also not happy with certain things with respect to our immigration system, but that's not Trump's fault. That's up to Congress to fix the rules, the laws, and so forth, right? And we have to have a fair and objective system.
Well, look, divided government's not a new thing in this country. And you know what? They still somehow manage to get things done. And if you look at where Trump is on prescription drugs, if you look at where he is on trade, if you look at where he is on infrastructure, he's actually a lot closer to the Democratic House than he was their Republican counterpart. But with respect to the Supreme Court, in my view, the time for lifetime tenure of Supreme Court justices needs to end. Give everybody a 15-year
stage
fixed
producer,
term.
my confidant, my man Jay, is waving every colored card there is at me. End the segment. Thank you, Frank. I'm sorry to cut you off. I want to thank Josh and John for joining us tonight on What's the Deal.
You got it, man.
What's the Deal is the place where the purple people hang out. We're the only show on television that allows a Democrat, a Republican, and an independent to come down and talk it out. If you watch these other mainstream shows, when they have Republicans on there, they're paid to go along with the Democrats. These are real people. We're talking about real ideas. You're watching What's the Deal? We've been cheating our crypto audience for the last few weeks with all this politics stuff. But we got all the crypto you want coming up right after this. You're watching What's the Deal on Newsmax TV. We'll be right back. Bitcoin falling. Investors falling. 3,000 is calling. We're at 3,500 right now. Last year at this time, Bitcoin was approaching 20,000. Speculators were in a frenzy. They're dying to buy more. Now a year later, was it a fad? Was it a bubble? Where is it going? Will it ever come back? Let's ask our experts. Joining us this week, Alan. He wants me to call him Kaz, but he's the Kaz because there's only one of him. Alan, the Kaz Kostrinsky, COO of a family office called Artillery One. Per Yerstrand, founder and CEO of Block 5 Ventures, strategic partner. to startups and enterprise clients. They provide strategy, hands-on execution of blockchain and next-generation token offerings. And Tony, Patty Peace, working for an Australian cryptocurrency hedge fund, as well as a security token that is soon to be issued. And when it is, you'll announce it here on What's the Deal, okay? Guys, thank you for joining us tonight on What's the Deal. Kaz, you come from an amazing institutional background, years and decades of capital markets experience. Where do you think Bitcoin is headed?
So it's interesting you say it. I'd say the separations kind of happen, blockchain, and that's kind of how I got involved in the space. So it was blockchain, it was around the technology. And then last year with this kind of Dutch tulip run-up, so to say, kind of the technology got forgotten and everyone ran after these crypto and altcoins that we saw over probably a 3-4 month phase. And I think right now we're coming back to the technology, and the crypto's going to kind of wallow. It's probably going to, maybe it hasn't found its bottom yet, so to say, and we know how low it could go. But I'd say we're starting to see more of a focus on the technology again, and the crypto will always be there. The whole idea of a blockchain is kind of having a payment rail, like an underlying tokenization is kind of the point. So I think we'll see that.
Since I got involved in blockchain and crypto about 4.5 years ago, I've always felt the same as Kaz was saying, that the Bitcoin was like the sizzle, but the blockchain was really the steak. What do you think people need to know watching at home when they hear about Bitcoin, this, that? What do they need to know?
Yeah, I think it's very simple. I think we're in this massive cleanup phase. We come out in the last year and a half where 3,500 ICOs was happening. Most of it was fraud or fraudulent, I would say 90%. So then we're down to 350 coins. Out of those, maybe 1 out of 10 would be successful. So we're down maybe to 35 to 50 interesting projects. So I think before the market have actually maybe come down to 90% from the Bitcoin's height, that might be some trigger points to come back in. So if you look at Bitcoin, it might be around 1900.
Tony, interesting point Pers makes, that maybe there's 15 or 20 deals out of all this frenzy of deals that are real deals. Right. What's good right now? What are you looking at? Because I've been telling our viewers, if you've been watching What's the Deal, you know, I've been telling you simple little things. If you hear words like sinking fund, and you hear things like you're going to get paid your interest with your own money, run away from those deals. And if you don't hear security, token offering, get out quick. Yes. Yeah. What are you guys looking for?
Well, we look at a number of different things. We look at the team, we look at the offering, we look at the stability of the market. People talk about fundamentals in this market, but there aren't many fundamentals. A lot of the ICOs are hype, pump and dump type schemes. We try and avoid those. So I worked with the fund that, as an advisor.
Tony, tell us how you really feel about some of these ICOs out there.
So we looked at
because they're pump and dump schemes.
600 different ICOs, and took 6 of them into the portfolio. So that'll give you some idea of.
They're at 1%. That's somewhere where Per was. For those of you watching at home, you email and text, and you go on What's the Deal Facebook, and you ask questions about this stuff. These are global experts in blockchain, in cryptocurrency. And across the board, they're saying about 1% of what they see is actually something they'll even consider. So when your buddy down at the convenience store tells you about this great crypto ICO that he wants you to invest in, wait till you hear another 99 and then pick one. But don't just jump in. Cause you came from PwC, you know how institutions are thinking about this. You're with a family office now. What do people need to know out there? Give them the cosmic goodness.
Thank you. I go back to Tony's theme, and it's about good teams with real businesses that have a function that's going to fit in the digital economy. That's things that we look at.
Per, doesn't it get a little annoying after years and years of being in the capital markets to see every deal with nothing in production? Do you feel good about investing in companies that are saying, we need all this money just to get it started, when there's guys who have started stuff with their own couple scraps?
Absolutely agree, and it's absolute lunatic to think that we would raise $50 million, $100 million on just a business idea or business case. I think the next generation of ICO, which will be security token offerings, will have some sustainable assets that can actually represent something. Could be a real estate, could be a piece of art, could be a company that actually have revenue, producing something. So that's what we're going to see the next ways. It's serious entrepreneurs. They've probably done serial businesses before. This is not their first rodeo, so to speak. So I think that's what I'm going to see, the next generation of offerings coming. But I think we are not going to be there until SEC is clearing the mist and we know what we're in for the longer term.
Security token bigot, that's all there is, because everything else is fluff
If it's,
or worse.
I think what Tony's saying is if it's not a security token, run. Do not invest, do not think about it. Is that
Unless it's a utility token, but there's very few utility tokens. A utility token being one that'll get you on the subway or a piece of a communications device.
You know
or
what?
something.
Kevin O'Hara, former general counsel to New York Stock Exchange. Kevin was a SEC enforcement guy. We had him on a couple weeks ago, and he said that there's going to be a lot more enforcements coming. Let's take a quick look at what Kevin said just a couple of weeks ago.
The SEC's come out and said, essentially to date, they may change this, but essentially they haven't seen an ICO yet.
That's legal.
That's not a security. So
Right.
we're dealing in a world of a lot of unregistered securities. I think ultimately this, I'll call this industry, is so revolutionary and so different that they are going to create at some point for regulatory certainty its own regulatory scheme. It's my sense that, again, the SEC is going to continue forward with its enforcement teachings and enforcement regime as we tick along the way here. But in the back of my mind, I just think at some point, and it could be a year or 2 or 3 or 5 out there, is they're going to want to create, for regulatory certainty, they're going to want to create its own. I think it's that different. No, it's its own regulations, right?
And shortly thereafter, the SEC came out with a whole bunch of notes on all these people that they say were doing all these wrong things, and Kevin was quite prophetic. We're going to have Kevin back on in a week or two, but Kaz, for your final thought, where do you see 2019? Look at your crystal ball. 2019 blockchain.
So I'd step back. I think 2017 and part 18 was really about BS coin, right? And I'm being kind.
Well,
we know
this is cable, so we can curse. You're talking about bullshit coins.
Right. But 99% of the coins that came out were absolute garbage.
Bullshit.
Right. So I'd say going into 19 is going to be, like you said, kind of the year of the STO, the security token. We saw the 1116 letter that came out from the SEC, and it was interesting because it was corporate finance, investment management, and trading and markets all came out together on that statement. And one of the bright spots, I thought, was, they did come down on a few companies, but they kind of gave remediation to a couple and said, hey, get yourself 2 years of audited, get an auditor in and come and register with us.
Yeah,
so they kind of gave an out.
I think the regulators have, under Jay Clayton, it's been, I think, one of the more fair regulatory environments I've seen in a while, because he realized this thing just snuck up on him. So they're trying to crack down on the frauds, but they're also trying to let a little innovation happen. And Jay Clayton, this bud's for you. Pers, your final thoughts. Blockchain 2019.
I think if you start with 2017, that was more around dream capital. 2018 was more around venture capital. I think 2019 is going to be more about growth capital, sustainable business that actually have businesses to scale. So that's the biggest opportunity for next year.
Excellent. And Tony?
Hard to predict. I think it's going to go up and down, zigzag, probably end up somewhere near where it is. I think you'll see more institutions come in, bring stability. I think you'll see futures on NASDAQ, which I think they announced today. So they'll bring stability to the market. And whatever that means in this.
This is a television show,
coin.
right? This is a television show. This is entertainment.
Okay.
So you can't say, well, it's going to, what's your prediction for 2019? You can't say, well, it's going to go up and down and probably be where it is, because no one cares.
Yeah,
They're not going to care.
yeah.
Can you make some wild, outrageous prediction for us?
Sorry, it's not going to zero. There'll always be ICOs, there'll always be exchanges. Some of the people that are trading, some of the people that are in the exchanges will probably go to jail. And I'm a security bigot, so we'll see more security coins, security tokens, sorry.
Even when I try to influence our expert guests, they're too sharp for me. He wouldn't take the bait. I want to thank you guys. First, Caucus,
Thank you, John. Thank you.
Tony Pettypiece.
Pleasure. Thank you.
These are the type people we're bringing on the show. Real people that know where the rubber meets the road. And this is what's happening. You want to get aware. You want to educate yourself. You want to stay woke on Bitcoin and blockchain. You tune in right here to What's the Deal, because we tell you what's the real deal with our real guests like these guys tonight. Guys, thank you very much for joining us. We're coming back right after this with the man himself, Dan Viola, and Brielle, our old contributor from Essentialized. Coming back right after this on What's the Deal.
Dan Viola, who is a man of many talents. Dan is the founder of the Blockchain Shift Conference. Let's get to our first guest. Brielle Pearson's here with us today. She is another one of these millennial blockchain crypto specialists.
Hi, esteemed panel.
Dan, I think you're doing something for young kids that maybe you and Brielle can hook up.
Welcome back. We neglected our crypto audience for weeks because of the midterm elections, but now we're going heavy crypto. We had a great panel earlier, and now we're bringing back some old friends. Dan Viola, our regular man on the street, man in the street, in the trenches, partner who started the crypto practice at Sadis and Goldberg. He's also the founder of the Blockchain Shift Conference. And Brielle Pearson, she's the founder of Essentialize. Both of you guys were on episode 1. Of course, our executive producer, Frank Morano, joins us again. In episode 1, we were trying to create a little education, a little awareness out there, and just do blockchain for dummies. Frank was our crash dummy that day.
Honored to be so.
If you remember. I gotta ask you guys, Bitcoin is dropping like a rock. Brielle, you have the millennial outlook on it. What's the deal?
I mean, I'm a Bitcoin believer, so Bitcoin is going nowhere. I'm not saying that everyone should go out and buy Bitcoin, but I think it's just interesting. I mean, the fork happened. Bitcoin kind of moves the way that the market sentiment moves. So it's actually a reflection of people and how they feel and the way people come together and teams happen. So it's a very natural thing. And I think that it would be weird if there wasn't something like this that happened.
So Brielle feels like Bitcoin moves in mysterious ways. And Dan, you know where all the movers and shakers are. You know what's happening in Bitcoin, blockchain, all this other stuff. What do you think about the volatility lately? It's like tipping around 3,000 now. What's happening in your view?
So in my view, John, the price of Bitcoin, the price of Ethereum, they're all vital factors in our ecosystem. But the reality is with blockchain in the enterprise, solutions that it offers, it doesn't have any relevance to the day-to-day operations of a company that's using blockchain to make their operations more efficient. So while it's a lot of hype, and we've seen a lot of volatility with the cryptocurrencies, it remains just one use case for the blockchain.
Frank, you were our crypto yeoman.
Still am. I'm self-admitted. I know the least about cryptocurrency of anybody up here. In fact, I didn't think I was coming back up here, and I wouldn't have had so much whiskey if I did.
But after episode 1, you said something to me. You said, John, I didn't realize that Bitcoin and blockchain were such different things.
Well, so 2 things. One, to Brielle's point, I'd be surprised if Bitcoin just went on, unlike any other commodity or currency in history, on an ever upward trajectory and never came down. So in some ways, the fact that it cratered a little bit, it actually reinforces my belief that maybe Bitcoin is something that has a sustainable future because it's sort of coming back down to reality. The other interesting thing, and I don't know the answer to this, and I'm sure the 3 of you do, is I don't know if all of the other top 40 or 50 cryptocurrencies mirrored the Bitcoin dip in value. If it did, maybe that causes a second look at what cryptocurrencies are like in the near future. But if not, then I think you're looking at something that a lot of people heard the term Bitcoin and said, oh, I've heard people talk about that, let me go and buy it. And now that it's dipped a little bit, it's a reflection of the folks that aren't responsible investors buying it. The last thing I'll say though, John, is in terms of blockchain, which you and Dan mentioned, is you're seeing more and more other industries beyond finance point to blockchain as a model. Bradley Tusk, who was the deputy governor of Illinois, ran Mike Bloomberg's campaign here in New York City. He's saying we need to look at blockchain as a way for people to vote.
Yes.
So I don't think you'd see people in other spheres beyond finance looking at blockchain and pointing it to it as an example if it was just a passing fad.
Agreed. And for those of you viewing at home, in the last 2 elections, a company out there called Voatz, V-O-A-T-Z, did a pilot program with West Virginia, where they used a blockchain voting app for military members overseas, and it was seamless, the numbers were perfect, and the blockchain proved to be a great place for that. The more important thing, in episode 1, when we were just a little teeny tiny baby just out of the womb as a TV show, I called on some of my great friends here to come down and talk to my audience about blockchain and Bitcoin and all this other stuff. And Brielle came down and talked about her foundation, and Dan came down and talked about the Blockchain Shift Conference that was going to happen. And these two met. This is where we used the Snapchat hearts emoji, right? And Dan mentioned that he was having an essay contest, and if Brielle wanted to come and participate, and there was going to be a grand prize of $10,000. Watch this.
Dan, I think you're doing something for young kids that maybe you and Brielle can hook up, and that's what this show is about. We're not only asking what's the deal, we're trying to make deals.
Yeah, no, we have some common ground, Brielle. We're also trying to empower students. We want students to come forward and share their thoughts about blockchain and how they see the world. And I think the students can actually educate some of the larger banks and other firms that are operating without this knowledge.
Brielle Pearson joining us on the premiere episode of What's the Deal on Newsmax TV. Thank you for coming into the Token Tank.
Thank
you.
you.
Hopefully you'll keep us abreast of how things are going, and we'll bring you back.
Yeah,
Well, thank you.
definitely.
Thank you.
There's been discussions in the past about having one sole regulator responsible for digital assets, cryptocurrencies.
Look who we found. It's Brielle Pearson. You met Dan Viola.
Yeah.
And Dan Viola invited you to the Blockchain Shift Conference where we are right now.
Now I'm in Miami. I attend every panel. I'm required to attend every session, listen to all the talks, write down notes, write an essay, and then I'm going to submit it for a centralized.
Brielle, you took him up on the offer. How was it?
I mean, I love these conferences because I learn about something and I meet people anyways, so it was no
Do
drag
you
to
love
get me
all
down.
these conferences, or do you just love the Blockchain Shift Conference?
Well, it was a great excuse to go down to Miami. I have to say. And this conference in particular had a lot of cool art, that I will say. Blockchain art, which was different from a lot.
Okay. I didn't even know there was blockchain art.
What is blockchain art? Not to reinforce my reputation as the dummy, but what is it?
Like the price of Bitcoin. This one artist did like a painting that had, well, it wasn't a painting, it was like digital, so it would like pulse with like the price of Bitcoin.
Baby. It
was cool.
This is for What's the Deal After Dark, with the paintings that pulse. But I'm thinking about blockchain art. I don't even have to do any art. I just say it's in my wallet. It's on the blockchain, and
that could be art.
Right, yeah. I just put a series of zeros and ones and say art. It's like Banksy.
We had a whole dedicated topic to blockchain and art, and how people are using blockchain to fractionalize the art and to make sure that the sale of art is trailed and tracked properly, so that when you buy a piece of art, you know that it's from the proper owner. So with blockchain, you can do that. So we had a bunch of artists dedicate their work, and that's what Brielle is.
When I buy a piece of art, it's usually at Home Goods for like $14.99, because I'm not really a
lot of people are like inspired by the movement, you know, like there's money to be made here, and not only that, but there's applications to be made. There's people that you can step up and become an entrepreneur, so people are inspired and they create art.
This is happening.
Yeah.
That's basically it. She went to Miami. He went to Miami. Of course he did. I went to Miami. We were all there.
Well, we were not all there. One of us was not invited to go to Miami. I just want to make that clear.
Us three were in Miami. Our producer was left home due to cost efficiencies and the budget. But we all met up again in Miami. You took in the conferences. You were running the whole thing. You spent a few minutes with Vito. You and I talked a little bit about what was happening in the whole conference. Take a look at this. Now, I can tell you this is a completely fair and open process, but I am going to lean on Dan Viola hard for you to win that 10 grand.
I mean, I came all the way here from New York, so.
Well, there's been a real drive for technology to improve businesses, and the blockchain offers businesses of all sorts that capability.
We wanted to just give you an update on what's happening with Brielle, and she's here. She's attending every panel, writing her essay, and we're looking for, what's the deal? Wants maybe a little finder's fee, a little cut or something.
You can be invited to all Essentialized events.
Yay! And now, this. I started this show, What's the Deal? What's the deal? To talk about politics, to talk about the economy, to talk about cryptocurrency, to talk to regular people about what is the deal. Because that's all people really care about, and that's all they want to know. What's the deal? And I want to make some deals in the show. I introduced these two guys. You just saw what happened. And now, Dan, I don't know. I want to put this on national television so it's completely transparent. Our viewers watched it in real time. Can you give us the results as of today on the essay contest?
Well, right now we've evaluated several essays, John, and there's 5 essays that we're contemplating to give the cash prize of $10,000 to. And I'm very happy to say that Brielle is within that top 5.
Oh, wow.
Which I just learned tonight. So it's a good night.
So you made the top 5?
Yeah, I made the top 5.
Now, if you harken back to some of those clips earlier, I had noted to Brielle that if What's the Deal makes a deal, we get a cut. So I'm going to stay out of the discussion. No, we don't want to cut. I want to see my friends. I want to see my people who are out there doing the hard work, putting their time and effort into this thing, make deals and make happen. And I'm hoping, Dan, you're a man of the court.
Yes, I am.
I have not influenced
Dan makes that happen.
this discussion in any way. Brielle's efforts. Talk about her essay for a minute.
It was a very good essay of detail, and it showed that she was really involved in attending every panel, which was important to the contest. I didn't want people just to show up for one event and write an essay. So Brielle did a great job of detailing every one of the panels, giving her information and observations, and that's exactly what we were looking for.
But Brielle wasn't even really supposed to be invited, right? I mean, she kind of roped her way into an invitation.
It was a last-minute invite on the show, and I was very glad.
JT, do you love me? I got her invited, and now she might win 10 grand. I don't know. I'm not saying anything. I got to get a bullet or something.
I should mention that we're going to announce the winner this year, but we're going to
on the show.
On the show,
okay.
and we're going to present a nice check at a presentation in Miami on January 16th at the One Hotel.
And I'm just going to put it out there that I'd like to be invited to that Miami conference on January 16th.
Let me frame this up and try to put this to bed. They met, they dated, they made love. They may have a kid. And maybe a $10,000 check. And it's a blockchain marriage made in heaven. It happens, and it happens right here on What's the Deal. She put in the effort, he put the time, and made the business deal happen for the conference. And now we very well may see the first ever What's the Deal right here. I don't want to put the arm on you, Dan.
Who were the judges besides you?
Well, we have a series of ambassadors for the conference that all attended, and each ambassador will get a view of the essay.
So it's not as if John and Brielle can kind of schmooze you tonight, and
Right.
then
And I should mention, John was not one of the ambassadors for the review of the essay.
John is not an ambassador.
Could not get past the Senate.
I could never pass Senate confirmation, but we want to go forward on what's the deal. We want to have a progressive discussion where we're always making progress and talking about new things, but we always want to take time to go back and talk about the great things that happen, like Dan meeting Brielle, and then there very well may be a $10,000 prize in the making just because of what's the deal. And your foundation will do amazing things.
We have a lot to do, and we need a lot of help. I mean, we're targeting youth. We're targeting 13 through 18-year-olds. So where are they? They're in high schools. They're on social media. They're all over social media. But how do you connect with them? It's not just me who can do that. We need people. We need credible people, people that are talented, that are going to put their time into this. So.
And it's another example, John, of how people are using the blockchain to inspire, to empower, and it's not just based on the volatility of a cryptocurrency.
And I was just going to say, no matter what happens, like just coming on the show and meeting Dan, going down to Blockchain Shift, I've already met so many people that I continue to get invited to events and learn more about them and get connected to this person. So it's already been.
So what's the deal? It's been a good deal.
Yeah, it's been a good deal.
Yeah, okay. Tonight we broke it all down. We went into the midterm elections. We talked about the blue wave. We talked about the blue ripple. But really what I wanted to do tonight was return to our commitment about talking about the new economy, which is cryptocurrency, which is blockchain innovation. And we did a hell of a lot of that. We had some great people. We had some great guests. We had some old friends who will be with us for a long time. And Dan, you promised that when the winner of the $10,000 essay contest is announced, it's going to happen right here on What's the Deal.
What's the Deal?
And then we're going to present that big fat check in January at the North American Bitcoin Conference. So stay tuned to What's the Deal to find out all the intrigue behind the 10 grand that Brielle may win. If not, she'll never talk to me again. But Dan and I have been friends for 20 years. I want to thank my panelists here tonight. Thank you guys for our crypto-heavy show. Frank, thank you for following up.
Well, thank you for the invitation, unlike the invitation that never came to Miami.
Yeah. Well, if Brielle wins, we're all going to Miami after that on her and the foundation. I want to thank Brielle Pearson from Essentialize. I want to thank Dan Viola, Sadison Goldberg, Blockchain Shift founder, and of course Frank Morano, my confidant, my sidekick, my main man who makes me look smart. Thank you guys very much for being here. You'll see all of them again. One thing I want to remind you at home is this. If you think your company is a hot entrepreneurial idea, if you think you have a great innovation, if you have an idea that you want to bring to a national audience, reach out to us. You can email me directly right here at jt@thetokenteam.com, right here. I love when they do that little graphic. And let me know what your idea is. And you could be sitting in one of these seats very soon. We're looking to talk to America and tell you everything you don't know in regular, plain man speak. Woman's speak. You're watching What's the Deal. Every Sunday is a pleasure for me. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you again next Sunday after this.
That's a wrap. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right.
Ooh.